Hello. I am Adwa Owusu-Barnier, and I'm joined by the writer and directors of both Something in the Closet and Sweet Mother. So I'm joined by Nosa Eke, Zena Igbe, and Rico Johnson Sinclair. Do you like to all introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do?
Yeah, I'll start off. So I'm Nosa Eke, and call myself like a platform agnostic filmmaker. So it just means that I'm basically a writer director for pretty much any platform, any and every platform you can make a story on, whether that's games, TV, film, short films, voice devices, mobile phones, that whole thing. And yeah, I directed and co-wrote Something in the Closet. So I co-wrote it with a Black writer called Alex Kessie.
Lovely.
Cool. And I'm Zena Igbe, and I am a writer-director. So I work mostly, obviously, with fiction, and I've just done my short film, Sweet Mother, and prior to that did a web series that I wrote and directed as well called Reprobates. It's on YouTube. So yeah.
And I'm Rico Johnson Sinclair. I'm the festival manager of Shout Festival and also the festival director and lead programmer of CineQ, which is a queer film festival here in Birmingham that prioritises queer, trans and intersex people of colour. And I also produced Sweet Mother with Zena. And my pronouns are he, him and his.
Oh, damn. My pronouns are they, them.
And my pronouns are she, her.
Wonderful, thank you. I should have asked that question. My pronouns are she, her as well. So I have the first question for all of you. Why do you think queer Black art is important? Anyone can go first.
Okay, so for me, I think it's like super important to show like different perspectives, because obviously right now we need, like, there are a lot of like different people, especially in this generation growing up. Like a lot of people are more aware of like different gender identities and like sexual orientations, etc. And I think it's super important for like the younger Black generation growing up to see some representation of that on screen. And if they don't see that, they don't know that's okay. Like for me, I would have loved to see some like queer Black representation growing up, but I didn't see any of that. So
Totally.
you know what I mean? So it'd be cool to like, that's why it's important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think at the moment, sort of, I guess not our jobs, but kind of our jobs as like, storytellers is to, I guess, bend audience expectations by educating audiences sort of on the nuances of Blackness and queerness and, all of the spaces in between. And I think, at the moment, like Black lives and LGBT like plus lives are not like valued, as we can see with what's happening in the world. So like, if you happen to be both, like what does that mean for us as a society? There's not like a lot of places that we can look at. Obviously there's definitely a lot more Black queer art coming out now, but there's still a lot of a like way to go. And so I think that kind of representation is sort of like integral for us to like come out together as a community and celebrate the fact that we can sort of see others like us, so we can have that representation that Zena, they were just talking about in terms of like not having like grown up with that. And we can't really ignore it anymore.
For sure.
And I also think like there's something to be said about, so for me, my experience would have been thinking that there was only one homogenous way to be Black, because I could only see homogenous way to be Black on screen or accessing mainstream media. And so like I think it's not only about Black stories but a diversity of Black stories, so we start to understand that there are many different ways to be Black. And it's like it goes back to one of the things that like Black community used to say to me when I used to say I was gay, and they used to say it was a white thing, and I think that was mostly because I hadn't seen any instances of Black people like being queer. And also I think something needs to be said around like Black identities and how kind of how complex they are, and how engaging with something fun like fiction to untangle that is actually a great way to start a conversation.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. I agree with all of your responses. So in terms of the writing and directing of the two films, what did you both find the creative process to be like what did it involve?
Do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, I guess, I don't know, I think like when I was coming up with the idea for it, I think I just wanted to be a filmmaker that was like able to control like an image and narrative around someone who was like me on screen, because I think the inspiration for the short sort of came from me really loving early like Spielberg films as a kid, like, you know, E.T., which is like kind of quite apparent in the short film, and like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and sort of those like fantastical worlds with realistic characters. And like, as much as I really love those as a kid, I was just like, there's still no one that looks like me who could be the hero of this story. And so it was that, like, that was sort of the nugget for it. And then I kind of just had like, you know, the hook of coming out of the closet, but then also trying to pair that with, you know, a main character who's queer. And so yeah, it was kind of those elements is what sort of started it off. And then I kind of just went out to look for collaborators, and I just, because I knew the story was going to be about, you know, a young Black woman who also happened to be queer in the story, I wanted to write it with another Black woman. And then I found Alex, and so yeah, that was kind of the I guess the nugget of it. But then I also wanted to sort of make a short that was like uplifting, like a queer short that was uplifting and like not rooted in sadness. I mean, not that like anything's wrong with films that are like, you know, sad in story and things like that, but I just feel like there are a lot of those, and you know, it's not everyday sadness. so
Sometimes queer Black joy.
Sometimes queer, exactly, sometimes queer Black joy. So yeah, but I also, because my journey wasn't like, I guess maybe I'm luckier in this way, but my journey of like with queerness wasn't like me thinking that I had to tell other people about this part of myself. It's I wanted to understand about this part of myself. And I feel like if you have a coming out like short film or what have you, it's usually about the main character trying to tell, like, you know, their identity to someone else, which then doesn't really center them in the story. And so I kind of was just like, well, I want it to be about a girl who's struggling to tell herself, and that's what her journey is. So,
yeah, I think it's really clear in the film as well that it's about Maddie's personal understanding with her idea of self, and not really so much anyone else's experience, which is for some reason a rare perspective to see.
Totally, but we move.
Okay, so for Sweet Mother, like, it kind of was born off my experience in a sense. I wasn't like found out in the same way that Faisal was or anything, but like I kind of like, basically when I came out, my mum kind of like kept asking me. So I was just, one day I was just like, yeah, okay, so I am. So what? So that was kind of how the story of Sweet Mother happened for me. So I just wanted to show a character who was out to himself and like to his friends and like his inner circle or whatever, but couldn't like bring himself to tell his mum. And like he would have never probably done it really if he wasn't forced to do it. And if my mum didn't like keep pushing me, then I probably wouldn't have told her, to be fair, because I was just chilling, like doing my own thing type thing. So that was kind of what brought about Sweet Mother for me, was just thinking of that experience with basically having to come out in a sense. But yeah, but I kind of, with the creative process during like rehearsal and stuff, I kind of worked with the actor Tolu who played Afosa. So we kind of had a similar experience. So I kind of collaborated with him and Kemi actually to work on like the interaction between them during that confrontation scene, because obviously they both like understand that culture because they're both Nigerian as well. So they understand the culture, they understand the like reactions they would be having. Like Afosa did, like Tolu did have a similar experience. So we were able to kind of work together to create that moment. And it was like super tense, but like, yeah, that collaboration definitely made that scene more authentic in a sense, because like my personal experience isn't enough to kind of show like everyone, like not everyone's experience obviously, but like, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think like
it absolutely did.
just to like jump in on that, I think that's why I also really enjoy you guys short, because I literally hadn't seen an experience like that where it's like, you know, this character was out to their friends and all that sort of stuff. Like usually it's the characters never out to their friends as well as their family, and I was just like, yes, that is an experience that is so true. So yeah,
because I was living my best life.
yeah.
Out there, like my mum didn't need to know, like it was fine. It was chill. It didn't need to out me, you know, but you know, hey, move in that. It's fine.
And I think with that scene as well, one of the things that I found really poignant with it when I was watching is that there's so many queer Black people who can either directly relate to that experience, or in something like my case, can imagine that being the conversation that would ensue when parents find out. And I think as well with the idea of using religion and stereotypes to try and reject your child's queer identity, do you was there like a very, very key reason why you chose to display that scene in particular? Because like you said, it's one of those things that happens quite privately a lot of the time in queer Black families, so it was quite nice to see that in the film.
With the whole religion aspect of it, like obviously homophobia stems from this is what I think anyway, it's like homophobia stems from religion, in my opinion. Obviously I'm not necessarily saying it is, but you know, it stems from religion. And obviously I feel like with African parents and stuff, they so believe, like when they are Christian, they so sometimes believe in like that, you know, the Bible and everything it says and everything. So, and I had that experience as well, because like when like my mum and her sisters would come to me, like they'd say stuff like, do you want to go to hell, and blah 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 blah, and I'm like, you know, like no, but you know, whatever. So it was kind of like, that's why I wanted to show that, because like you don't even have to really be religious for them to still throw it back at you. It's always religion. Like they're like, my mum's not even religious really, but that's what they always throw back at you. It's like, you know, you should be ashamed of yourself, it's an abomination, blah 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 blah. Like literally those were words that my mum said to me, like the stuff that like we're good now, I forgive her in that, but like those were words that she legit said to me, which is all from like the Bible says this and this and that, you know, they're taking that as gospel, and it's just, you know.
Going back to your point about like homophobia, especially homophobia among Black communities stemming from Christianity, 100% that's true. And if we look back as far as like colonization and the implementation of the Christian religion is the first instance of like anti-homosexual law. So actually, in a very like important historical way, homophobia does stem from Christianity.
Yeah. Also, it wasn't even like in the Bible until that happened. Like the word was something different, and it was then changed to homophobia. So it's just like, okay.
In quite a lot of cases, I feel like there's a lot of, not a lot, there are some religious people who use their understanding of their connection with Christianity as a scapegoat for being homophobic or queerphobic, more so than, because sometimes I feel it's difficult to expect someone to actually believe. Like, so one of the quotes that Fosa's mum says in the film is she basically conflates him being gay with being a girl and calls it sodomy. Like there's so much of a misunderstanding of what these separate queer identities are that all just normally get like pushed together, which is a shame, but I think is really good that there is something to actually show that is an experience that someone like you, someone like, so the rest of us have occasionally had to go through.
For sure.
And I think something I picked up on between both Sweet Mother and Something in the Closet too is there's this understanding of how important it is to have healthy support systems. Whether, so in Maddie's case, it's her best friend, in Afosa's case, it's his sister. I just thought, how important do you think it is to have those healthy support systems in both your work and your social environments?
I think, you know, it's so important because so often it's like your support system, which is a lot of the times, you know, your friends, they're your family at the end of the day. So it's kind of just like, you know, they're this, you know, chosen family that kind of it keeps you, it keeps your head on straight and like keeps you uplifted and things like that. And I think especially, you know, for me anyway, like around, you know, sort of BFI Flair and like that whole kind of community, that was like the first time I'd had like a chosen family of queer people slash filmmakers. And so like then they became obviously my support system. And like before that I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'd been missing all of that, because I just feel so much better like in myself and in my head, because you know I've got this support system. So yeah, I think it's like that support system is everything.
Yeah,
back at that, like we have something like that in Birmingham. Like, so we have this community here called Unmuted, and it's specifically for like queer, trans, and intersex people of color. And it's just like a casual group. There's one in Manchester as well called Rainbow Noir.
Yeah.
Just like a community that like people meet in and you get conversations. So it's the first time that like it feels like home. It really does feel like home, because it's the first time you can go into a space, be completely yourself, and all of your experiences are valid because they're shared, but also all of your experiences are valid because everyone there knows that all experiences are valid. And it's just such a great thing.
For sure, yeah. So before when I originally came out, like I didn't have that support network or really know any like queer folk or whatever until I worked at Lush, and then I met loads of like queer people and stuff, and it was just amazing to kind of have that mutual understanding in a sense, like we get each other, and like it made me feel more like at home, and like I wasn't like the odd one out, I guess, in a sense. But that's why it's super important just to have that support network, so you feel like you are in that family and not alone and stuff. So yeah, and obviously what everyone else said as well was, you know,
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it can't be underestimated just how useful it is to not have to explain yourself everywhere you are. I think that's quite a nice thing about having people just kind of understand you and want to understand you as well. Which also makes me want to ask, in relation to the film, what do you consider as being the most fulfilling aspect of that creation for you?
For me, like just being able to tell that story in a sense was like I felt like it was like something that was weighing on my heart for me. So being able to kind of make it was like it's just a good feeling in a sense, because I was able to share it to my mum as well, like, and just have her kind of watch that and reflect on it, you know what I mean? So honestly, just being able to make it was just great for me. Like, and obviously being able to get into these amazing festivals as well, like, it's just amazing. So yeah, and working with Rico, obviously, you know.
The best thing about it was our crew and our cast.
Hey, yo.
It was like going to work today was like every day was like coming home. Well, not going to work every day because we slept in the same place that we shot. So you felt like coming
hustling.
It was amazing. It was a good, it was a sick cast and crew, man. It was a family. It was like a sweet mother fam.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely my favorite part of it. Like, I want to bring that crew and cast back together for something else.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of like what you guys said. Definitely like the casting, like crew, and I think even crew wise with like my producers, who, you know, are two white producers, but they're very much like allies in the sense that they were just like, we're here for whatever like you need, and like we're also trying to, you know, actively like checking the environment so it was all right for everyone. So I think, yeah, it was just like a nice family in that sense. And then also I think the other rewarding part is that we've actually started screening, or like getting requests for our shorts to be screened in schools, like across Europe at the minute. So
that's so exciting to hear.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely something I didn't necessarily expect, but yeah, it's been really cool just to even hear like what it's for. Like I think the last one we did was in the Netherlands, and it was for this thing called like Coming Out Day that they like have there in schools. And like just hearing how our short was used and like received, because, you know, they sent us a report afterwards about like how it went and things like that, and just hearing how it was like received and, you know, how it helped kids, because I also think, you know, being in school now is definitely very different from when, you know, we were all in school, I think. where, you know, the like atmosphere maybe wasn't as you know, accepting and like wide as it is now. But even like now, like kids can kind of, you know, be a bit more understanding because they're actually having to see that representation in front of them at a younger age. So yeah, it's that's been a really like kind of rewarding thing.
Oh, that's really fabulous news. Just the idea of the film being in a school. I went to a Catholic convent school, so
Yeah, me too.
that would that would never have been a possibility.
They would have kicked you right out.
And Nosa, for you as well, in relation to something in the closet, I think what I found really cool about it for me was it looked like it was like we said earlier, it was about Maddie choosing how she was responding to feeling desire for who happened to be her best, the woman that happened to be her best friend. But I also thought it was really interesting that she never actively defines what that desire might mean for her or her identity. And I just wanted to know if it was intentional that you didn't have that sense of closure for the audience in terms of understanding her thought process in relation to her own identity.
Yeah, I think definitely like two things on that, because like first of all, this is definitely one of the like projects or like films that I've done where it didn't have much dialogue, and that was like intentional because it was just like we didn't want to oversell it and like have to, you know, put ideas in the audience's head, where it's just like wanting to watch the film and like, you know, just come up with some of their own suggestions in regards to like what we were trying to do. But then also yeah, I guess it was definitely intentional for Maddie to like not have to like label herself as anything, you know, because it's kind of just like, I think identities at the moment, as we know, or not even at the moment, always have kind of been fluid. Like gender, sexuality, all of that is fluid. So it's just like, you know, what she also might identify as in one day, maybe a year down the line, she'll feel differently, or, you know, they'll feel differently, however it is. So it's kind of just like, let's not put a stop on it.
Yeah, like the vibe I got from it was definitely a matter of your identity isn't fixed and concrete. It is subject to change, evolve, expand, which was quite nice. I have a fun question for all of you now. Who would you say your biggest queer Black creative inspirations are, and why?
Oh, I know it.
I'll go first. So mine would be Marlon T. Riggs, because he taught me how to feel love for myself. I guess like when you grow up as Black and queer, there's a lot of issues you have to encounter, but there's always like that reoccurring theme of being too Black to be gay and too gay to be Black. And I think that in that process, you internalize a lot of the hate that you're given. And I guess in my life, I internalized a little bit too much hate and started to dislike myself. But when I watched Marlon T. Riggs talk about Black being beautiful and how Black men loving Black men is a revolutionary act, that really kind of like, it sparked something in me, which allowed me to unpack a lot of that internalized trauma. So actually, like, props to Marlon T. Riggs, Igbe.
Okay, mine's gonna seem basic, but like mine is Lena Waithe, just because like I love Lena Waithe because she literally is one of like the only one I can think of really that kind of resembles me in a sense. Do you know what I mean? Like I know she is obviously not non-binary or anything like that, but like she produces work and I see people that resemble myself and I want to be able to, that's the kind of stuff I want to do. Like I want to create more work, like make films that like show more like different, you know, people and stuff. Like 20s, for example, is so dope because it's got like a male presenting lesbian that is super like androgynous and everything like that. You don't really, like, I don't really see that loads on like TV and film and stuff like that. So that's like, she's definitely one of my inspirations for sure.
Yeah, Zena You just took mine for sure. But like, I agree with everything you literally said. I think like, I remember like one of my first shorts, I think this is back when like Lena maybe was like, because I think I grew up watching like Lena stuff and like Issa Rae stuff on like YouTube, which then pushed me to like just do my own things without, you know, kind of waiting for the money. But you know, one of the first things I watched from like Lena Waithe was maybe like Hello Cupid on YouTube. And I just remember I did one of my first shorts, and then I basically sent it to her on Twitter, and like she like followed me and then retweeted me and all that sort of stuff. And like every time I've had a project, like she'll like continue to do that, which is like, you know, even like I've literally never had like a face-to-face conversation with her, but like just even the support is there, which is like really nice. But I agree, like 20s is, you know, with like the masculine like presenting a queer person, like it's kind of amazing to see that. And like definitely I can identify with that, and it kind of obviously is it's not really seen in the media, and that kind of gave me the push to be able to tell that story in like my upcoming feature, where like my main character is a queer masculine presenting like female character. So yeah, I think she definitely had like a lot of like just a lot of inspiration, an inspiration in my life for sure.
Lovely. And Nosa, what's your upcoming feature called?
It's called The Young and the Dopeness.
When can we expect to be able to view that?
Yeah, good question. I guess with like COVID, like I think we're trying to shoot next year, but I don't know if that's going to be like possible. But it's sort of an AR feature film as well, so like we're still going to have to figure out the mechanics of like the AR element before we then even shoot. So like that actually might be a lot of next year as well. But yeah, I'm really excited for it, to be honest. I'm excited for it to be out. It's like set in the world of streetwear, which is like, you know, kind of trying to tackle identity in this sort of kind of, I guess, I don't know, kind of sexist like world in a way. So it's like kind of putting all those elements together around like clothing and how you view clothing, you know.
That sounds so interesting, and it gives us something to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure.
I also wanted to ask, in terms of careers and creative practice, what would you consider as being one of the most valuable learning curves of your careers?
Good question.
I guess I would consider every single failure that I have like the biggest learning of my career. I mean, I really like failing, and not because I like being a failure, but because I get more from failing than I ever get from succeeding. Like when you fail, you know exactly where you've gone wrong, you can always go back to it and kind of think about ways you could change that. When you succeed, it's like people are telling you it's great or you're great, but they're not giving you any criticism. They're not telling you how you're great. You're not able to grow. And like, yeah, so I think every single failure that I've endured has probably been my biggest learning from my career.
For me, like, I think honestly, everything I make, like it's such a struggle for me to watch it and not like nitpick everything. Like Sweet Mother, for example, I can't watch it without being like, ugh, you know what I mean? So like every time I make something, like I learn from it, because I'm like, oh, dude, I should have done this, or I shouldn't have done it like this, or I could have worked on the dialogue a bit better here. So I think like every time I make something, like you just kind of develop every time in a sense, if you know what I mean. Like, so yeah, like I think the whole process thus far has been, it's all still a massive learning experience, you know. Yeah.
I think for me, I think maybe this is going to sound a bit weird, but I think just knowing that like even when I'm at like my brokest ever, I'm like, this is still what I want to like do, because I think, you know, it's I think this is not an easy like business to like get into / be in, and so it's kind of like if you can be doing something else, you probably should be doing something else. But like, this is just reaffirming for me that like, I'm like, I don't want to be doing anything else. Also, I don't think I can even do anything else. So like, you know, for the times I'm like, oh man, where's the money going to come in? I'm like, it's not always going to be like this. Like, you learn that craft, and you know, these really hard times are also going to be like, there are going to be better times.
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. I think what I like about that is it shows that, I mean, as you said, it's a job that you have to love to do it. But I think as well, because you have that love and that passion for it, it's why all of you also look for that continuous self-improvement, not because it serves someone else for you to do it, because you actually enjoy creating all the films that you create. Which also brings me on to the film industry. What do you think the industry as a whole could do more of to amplify and include queer, Black identities in the future?
I think, you know, I don't know, it's the time. I think the time for action is now. I think maybe we're all kind of really, you know, over, you know, companies, distributors, commissioners being like, oh yeah, there is a diversity problem. A year goes by. Oh yeah, there is a diversity problem. Yeah. 2 years go by. Same thing. It's just like, you know, there is. Let's maybe like not start at, I guess, just the bottom of the rung, and you know, put, you know, more people of color, more Black people in, you know, runner positions to work their way up. It's like, let's put them at the top and let that trickle down, you know, because that's the only way we're actually gonna get the change. It's like, let's stop talking about it and let's actually do it. And I think like they need to kind of be held responsible. It's like, if you don't have this many people in your like production or in your roles at this time, you don't get any money for your projects, you know. It's like, there needs to be something to hold them accountable, so we can stop having this conversation and just actually, you know, get into action. And I think I feel so strongly about this because like, I was definitely at a point when I, you know, starting out in my career, like I like was a runner, but then I was a runner, I realized, for like, I don't know, 2 years, and other people were being like promoted or like around me, but they weren't, you know, of color at all. And I was just like, how am I still a runner? And I was just like, no, I'm gonna get out of this and just do it my own way. But then I've got a lot of friends who like are never promoted, so then they go somewhere else and have to start at the bottom again. And it's just like, let's just end that cycle, you know. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, honestly, like, you literally just hit the nail like right on the head. Like, that is it to a T. Like, we need people, like Black queer people at the top, like running, like being at the board, basically, like having that influence on what gets made, and like the people who are working further down the line, like, because that's the only way there's going to be change. If we don't have that change at the top, then it just, we can't expect to have it like at the bottom. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, honestly, that is it. I don't have anything else to say.
I think I agree with everything that's said. I just want to add that like, attitudes are also a huge problem in the industry, because actually when people from diverse backgrounds, when Black people are put into positions of power, there's an attitude around them that means they not only have to deal with the very difficult job that they're going to do, but then also navigating difficult workplace environments. And I think that something needs to be said about not putting Black people into positions where they're going to have to deal with trauma to be able to do a good job. Like, we'll do a good at our job.
I hear that.
Yeah. Also, I guess to like add on to that, I think maybe like Rico, like you can even speak to it with the like position that you're in at the moment. But it's just like, even if it's like Black people, queer Black people are at the like top, I feel like there is also shouldn't be an expectation on them to then, like, obviously they should, like, you know, want to get the next person in behind them, but I don't think it should even all be on them. It's like, no, it needs to be on, you know, the other people out there, like, that need to also deal with it, because it's kind of like, I feel like that's so much pressure.
If I'm being brought in for an inclusion and diversity role, I want to be paid for an inclusion and diversity role. I don't want to do a role and do an inclusion and diversity role for free. That's not what I'm about, sorry. I've done that my whole entire life. I'm not ready to do it now.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I just have one final question for all of you. So Nosa, Zena and Rika, where can we all go for social media, websites to keep up with you and your work? And do you have any fun projects? You've already mentioned the AR film. Do you have any fun projects in the works that we can keep tabs on as well?
Yeah, so for me, I'm currently working on my next short film, and I've been working with Short Film Script Lab on it, and it is called Odd One, and it is essentially about like it's set in a gender reveal party, and it's to do with like gender reveal parties in general and how kind of daft they are, and it is a comedy. Yeah, that is mine, and for Sweet Mother information, you can find it on Sweet Mother Films on Instagram and on Twitter. And for me, mine is Zena _ the artist with a 3. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Do you want to go?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, what else? So yeah, I guess the feature, but I'm also working on like an interactive film that's a game. So that's most likely going to be shooting before the feature next year, fingers crossed. And yeah, my social media information is at Nosa Ferratu, so my name Ferratu, on pretty much all social media.
Cool.
Thank you.
I guess I'm just working on Shout. Well, I'm just working on Shout Festival. I'm writing a script at the moment that is to do with sexual assault in the Black community, in the Black queer community, using drugs, because it's bad. And so I'm trying to develop that script. I'm on like the second draft. I'm also doing the BFI Weekender, although it got postponed because of. Well, actually, I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to say that, but I said it, so it's fine. Coronavirus, I'm doing that. And then I am thinking about the future of Sinikyu and just how to ring fence it from what's currently going on. And I'm on the Back In project as well, which is a project here in Birmingham, which helps Black filmmakers get into the industry. So I'm writing like a little something for that as well, about someone with psychosis that goes on a blind date.
Oh.
All very, very interesting projects. And just one word responses to end off. What does queer Black film mean to you?
Joy.
Impact.
Innovation.
Joy, impact, and innovation. I like to hear that. And Somewhere in the Closet and Sweet Mother are available to see. And by the time this will have come out, it will have been shown as part of Shout Festival. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you.
Guys.